Imagine the exact moment you're about to leave the house.
Oh, this is going to hit close to home for a lot of people.
Right. I mean, you're already running like maybe a few minutes behind, but you're finally ready.
You've got your coat on, shoes tied.
Exactly. And you reach for your keys and, well, suddenly they've just vanished.
Just completely gone.
Yeah. And the smartphone you literally just had in your hand, maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds ago, nowhere to be found.
It's like it just evaporated into thin air.
So you frantically start opening drawers, you're rummaging through your bag, pacing back and forth between the kitchen and the living room.
Getting sweatier and sweatier.
Oh, totally. And you only finally find the item like way past your departure time.
It's a universally understood panic, honestly. The sudden spike in cortisol, the immediate derailment of your entire morning schedule.
It's the absolute worst feeling.
It is. Because, we desperately want things to be predictable. We like to think we are in absolute control of our physical reality.
Right, like we're the masters of our domain.
Exactly. And when that illusion shatters over a misplaced set of keys, well, the physical stress response is just immense.
But the real toll of this whole morning chaos, it isn't just the lost 10 minutes, is it?
Not at all. That's just the surface level.
Yeah, it's the crushing self-blame that hits you right as you finally lock the door.
That inner voice just turns incredibly mean.
Right. You sit in your car or you walk to the train and that internal monologue starts up. Why can't I just do this one simple thing?
Why am I so sloppy?
Exactly. Why is everyone else able to keep their life tidy and organized and I can't even, keep track of my own belongings?
We immediately categorize this phenomenon as a profound moral failing.
A moral failing. That's such a heavy way to look at it.
It is, but it's true. Our society is built on a very specific industrial framework, right? It equates tidiness, punctuality, and rigid organization with inherently good character.
So if you aren't those things, you're somehow a bad person.
That's the subconscious message, yeah. So when your brain drops the ball on these administrative tasks, the immediate cultural diagnosis is a lack of discipline.
Or a lack of care, or just plain laziness.
Exactly. But there's this fascinating psychological and neuroscientific analysis we're doing a deep dive on today from the YouTube channel Hitatoki Psychology.
And their premise completely flips the script on what we consider functional, right?
It really does. It shatters this whole narrative. Your forgetfulness, your notoriously messy desk, your inability to neatly tidy away your life, these aren't moral failings.
They aren't signs that you're just not trying hard enough.
Not at all. Your brain isn't dropping those details because it's empty or lazy. It's dropping them because it's operating at the absolute maximum limit of human processing power.
Okay, that is huge. So it's not a lack of effort, it's actually an overload of processing.
Precisely. And this is where we have to look really closely at the underlying neuroprofile of the chronically forgetful or disorganized person.
Which, this aligns a lot with the traits very commonly associated with ADHD, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This deep dive is incredibly relevant to ADHD and the specific struggle of the inability to tidy up. But it really applies to anyone with a highly divergent thinking style.
So we've basically pathologized the inability to tidy up.
We have. We treat it as a symptom of a broken system, but when you look at the actual neurological mechanics, this exact brain wiring is deeply, fundamentally connected to incredible hidden strengths.
Okay, that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We want to reframe this completely for you.
Right. We're going to deconstruct the exact mechanics of why your brain drops these everyday details.
And we'll uncover the 3 unexpected superpowers this brain type possesses.
Plus, we've got 3 concrete, science-backed hacks you can use starting today.
Hacks to design a life that works with your brain, not against it. I am so ready for this.
Let's get into it.
So before we can celebrate the strengths of this brain type, we have to look at the mechanical reality of the missing keys.
We have to unpack the biology, yeah.
Right, like how does a fully functioning adult physically place an object on a table, look right at it, and then have absolutely zero recollection of doing it 10 minutes later?
To understand the missing keys, we have to talk about working memory.
Working memory. Okay, I've heard the term, but let's break it down.
We need to move past the elementary definition. People often hear working memory described as a mental whiteboard where you just jot things down for a few seconds.
Like remembering a verification code from a text message.
Exactly. But neurologically, it's far more dynamic than a passive whiteboard.
How so?
Well, it's localized primarily in the prefrontal cortex, right? And it is the active, high-energy manipulation of information in real time.
So it's not just a storage unit, it's like an active workspace.
Yes. It's not just holding a phone number in your head. It's holding the phone number, remembering why you were calling, suppressing the urge to scratch an itch, and navigating a crowded room all at once.
Oh, wow. So it's doing a lot of heavy lifting all the time.
A tremendous amount. And the catch is that this high-energy workspace has a brutally strict capacity limit.
Right, no matter who you are.
Exactly. The human brain is an energy hog, frankly. It consumes about 20% of your body's energy, despite being only 2% of your mass.
20%? That's wild.
And the prefrontal cortex is the most energy-hungry region of all.
So you literally cannot out-willpower your biological working memory capacity.
You can't. It doesn't matter how hardworking you are or how much you desperately want to be on time.
When the system hits its data limit, it just starts recording new information.
That's the mechanical reality. It just stops.
Okay, let's look at that busy morning scenario again through this lens.
Okay, let's do it.
So I'm trying to get out the door. My working memory is currently holding the target departure time.
Right, the clock is ticking in your head.
But it's also holding the mental note that I need to email a specific client the second I get to the office.
Another heavy task loaded up.
And I'm also kind of analyzing a slightly stressful comment my partner made last night.
Which is taking up huge emotional bandwidth.
Plus, on top of all that, it's holding a reminder to pick up groceries on the way home. My mental RAM is basically completely maxed out.
Precisely. To use an analogy, you have 50 heavy applications running in the background.
The spinning beach ball of death on a Mac?
Exactly. So in that exact moment, you walk past the dining table and you put your keys down.
I physically do it. My eyes see my hand move.
Your motor cortex executes the action perfectly.
But because my working memory is utterly saturated with those complex, high-level thoughts,
the information about the keys never makes it to the hippocampus to be encoded into a memory.
Oh, wow. So the source material from Hidetoki psychology refers to this as the unpressed registration button, right?
Yes, the unpressed registration button. I love that visual.
It's so perfect. It's not that the memory was lost. It was simply never recorded in the first place.
Right. You can't lose a file you never saved to the hard drive.
But wait, I have a question here. If my working memory is full because I'm stressing about an email, isn't that just like poor prioritization?
How do you mean?
Well, why does the brain choose to allocate its limited RAM to an email I'm going to write in an hour rather than the physical reality of where my keys are right now?
That is a brilliant question. And it comes down to how the brain assesses value and threat.
Threat, like survival threat.
Exactly. The brain's amygdala, the emotional processing center, it tags certain thoughts with emotional salience.
Okay, so it gives them a little priority flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you are stressed about that upcoming meeting or that email, the brain flags it as a high-priority survival threat.
It thinks an email is a tiger in the bushes.
In a modern context, yes. The brain says this social dynamic could impact our livelihood, so we must dedicate all processing power to simulating this future event.
Oh, man. So mentally time traveling to the future meeting is deemed essential for survival.
Yes. And by comparison, the mundane physical action of setting down a piece of metal or keys is tagged as utterly irrelevant background noise.
Wow, so the brain is just being incredibly efficient in a weird way.
It is an incredibly efficient machine. It aggressively filters out what it deems unimportant to save metabolic energy.
It funnels its power into the one point of concentration that feels most urgent.
Right. And the tragedy here is that we don't treat ourselves like a computer with full RAM.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when a computer lags because it's processing a massive video file, we understand it's a capacity issue. We don't say the computer is lazy or sloppy.
We just say it's working hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when we lag, when we drop a physical detail because our brain is rendering a massive emotional or intellectual file, we immediately attack our own character.
We call ourselves stupid or disorganized.
Right. But knowing this biological limit completely shifts the paradigm.
It really does. It stops the secondary, much more damaging reaction, the shame cycle.
That shame cycle is so toxic, especially for people with ADHD who deal with this constantly.
If you understand that your brain's temporary folder was simply full because it was doing heavy, complex lifting elsewhere, you can finally stop attacking your core identity.
You aren't unconscious. You aren't broken.
You just have an operating system that prioritizes complex internal simulation over mundane external logging.
And accepting that mechanical reality is the absolute crucial first step for anyone listening.
Because you cannot design a life that works for you if you are constantly at war with your own biology.
Beautifully said. You have to start from a place of biological reality.
Which brings us to the most fascinating part of this whole deep dive.
The strengths.
Yes, if this brain's RAM is constantly overflowing, what exactly is it overflowing with?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because this specific brain type, the one that leaves cabinets open, struggles with routines, and, can't maintain a perfectly minimalist space, it possesses massive advantages.
Huge advantages that society often overlooks.
So the first major strength the source highlights is divergent thinking and the natural ability to break the rules.
We really need to look closely at the relationship between rigid order and actual creativity here.
Yeah, because society is built on a foundation of absolute shoulds.
Oh, completely. Keys should go in this specific dish. Schedules should be followed linearly. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Desks should be completely clear of all non-essential clutter.
Right, and this rigidity creates administrative stability, which, industrial societies love.
It makes things predictable, it makes the trains run on time.
Exactly. But while stability is comfortable and efficient for factory work, it severely limits perspective.
It limits how we see the world. So if you are fiercely bound by the rule that an object only has one purpose and belongs in one specific place, your brain never gets the chance to practice lateral association.
Lateral association. Tell me more about that. There's a great example from the source about this, right?
Yes, the cardboard box example. It's so illuminating.
Let's walk through it.
So imagine looking at a piece of trash, like an empty cardboard box.
Okay, got it. A highly routine, rule-bound thinker looks at it, and their brain executes a simple linear program. Empty docs. The rule dictates this, goes in the recycling bin.
End of thought process. The loop is totally closed.
Exactly. But the divergent brain, the one with the overflowing tabs, the one we often see in ADHD, it naturally resists that straight line.
So what do they see when they look at the box?
Their brain branches out immediately. They see a canvas. They see a potential custom storage solution for their messy cables.
They see the raw material for a prototype.
Yes, this is divergent thinking in action.
It's the cognitive ability to expand your thoughts into multiple varied possibilities, right?
Rather than converging on a single predefined correct answer.
Neurologically, what's actually happening there?
It involves a fascinating interplay between different brain networks.
Okay, getting into the brain science. I love it.
So linear thinkers rely heavily on the executive control network.
The ECN.
Right, which is great for staying on task and following rules.
But divergent thinkers.
They often have a highly active default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN. What does that do?
The DMN is the brain network associated with daydreaming, mind-wandering, and spontaneous thought. It is the absolute engine of creativity.
So when your environment isn't perfectly sterile and rule-bound, your DMN is just constantly firing.
Yes, it's making novel associations between seemingly completely unrelated things.
So people who struggle to tidy up their physical spaces often possess an extraordinarily high capacity for this kind of original idea generation.
Precisely because their brains don't immediately categorize and dismiss objects based on rigid societal rules.
That is so empowering for anyone who has ever been called messy. But let's be real about the trade-off here.
Oh, there's always a trade-off.
Because when you're trying to do something strictly linear, like, say, pack a suitcase for a flight that leaves in 2 hours,
That beautiful branching thought process can become a nightmare.
it can completely derail you. You go to pack a shirt, you see a book next to it.
The book reminds you of a podcast idea.
You sit down to outline the podcast idea.
And 40 minutes later, your suitcase is completely empty and you are panicking.
The trade-off is absolutely real, and it's why this neuroprofile can feel so disabling in modern life sometimes.
When your brain is constantly reacting to new possibilities, strict procedures just fall apart.
But we have to weigh that administrative downside against the monumental upside, don't we?
We really do. The ability to find innovative angles, to see solutions that linear, rule-bound thinkers completely miss, that is what drives progress.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
If my desk is a total disaster zone of quote-unquote divergent ideas, papers everywhere, 3 old coffee cups, a random screwdriver from yesterday,
A very familiar scene for many.
at what point does it stop being a creative mood board and start being a severe executive dysfunction issue that prevents me from actually finishing the work?
That is the perfect pushback. There is absolutely a tipping point.
Okay, so there is a line.
Yes. If you cannot physically find your computer mouse under the papers, your environment is no longer serving you. It is actively hindering you.
Okay, good to know. But where does the psychological research land on this?
The research actually challenges the absolute ideal of the pristine desk.
Really? Because We're constantly sold the idea that a clear desk equals a clear, successful mind.
I know the minimalist aesthetic is everywhere, but absolute sterile order is highly predictable.
And predictable is bad for the DMN.
Yes. Predictable environments do not challenge the brain. They leave no room for unexpected neural connections.
So the brain actually thrives on a little bit of chaos.
It thrives on varied stimuli. Think of historical examples, Einstein's famously messy desk,
Oh, yeah, there are photos of it. It was a total
the
disaster.
studios of prolific artists, right? They're usually chaotic.
Because when your desk has a book you were reading next to a sketch you're making, next to, I don't know, a strange piece of quartz you found.
Those disparate items force your active default mode network to make novel subconscious associations.
The listener's natural inclination away from rigid, sterile order, their so-called inability to tidy up, is actually the physical manifestation of a highly active mind mapping out multiple possibilities at once.
Exactly. We have pathologized a natural creative state just because it doesn't look like a neat corporate brochure.
I love the idea that it's not a mess, it's a physical mood board. That completely changes how I look at my own office.
It's functional for a specific type of brain.
But, okay, if this divergent brain struggles to follow step-by-step routines, what does it actually excel at when it comes to, execution?
That brings us to a massive revelation about how we work. Deep immersion.
Deep immersion. And this ties into shattering the toxic myth of multitasking, right?
Absolutely. Modern work culture completely demands multitasking.
We idolize the person who can participate in a Zoom call, clear their email inbox, and organize their calendar simultaneously.
Job descriptions literally listed as a requirement. Must be a great multitasker.
And when you have the brain type, we're discussing the one where the RAM fills up quickly, you inevitably drop the ball when you try to juggle all those things.
You forget the attachment on the email because you were trying to listen to the meeting.
And the result is this deep, lingering sense of inferiority. You feel like you just aren't capable enough to keep up with the modern world.
It's a huge source of anxiety. But neuroscience completely invalidates that feeling of inferiority.
Wait, really? Invalidates it?
Yes, because the human brain is biologically incapable of true multitasking. It is a complete corporate myth.
That is wild. So what are we actually doing when we think we're multitasking?
What we call multitasking is actually rapid serial task switching.
Task switching. Okay, explain that.
Your brain is not processing the email and the meeting simultaneously. It is wildly darting back and forth between the two.
Like a spotlight flicking back and forth super fast.
Exactly. And there's a massive biological cost to that switching.
I imagine it burns a lot of energy.
Huge amounts. Every single time your brain shifts its attention from the meeting to the email and back again, it burns heavy cognitive energy.
So you're just depleting your battery.
Yes. And more importantly, it leaves behind what organizational psychologist Sophie Leroy calls attention residue.
Attention residue. I've never heard that term. What does that actually look like in the brain?
Okay, think about when you're writing a complex report, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you switch over to quickly check a Slack message.
Happens 50 times a day.
Right. The message takes maybe 5 seconds to read. You switch back to the report.
And I feel like I've immediately resumed working.
You feel like you have, but neurochemically, a significant portion of your cognitive resources is still stuck processing the emotional tone or the implications of that Slack message.
Oh, wow. So part of my brain is still in Slack while I'm trying to write the report.
Exactly. It actually takes the brain an average of 23 minutes to fully recenter its focus after a distraction.
23 minutes, just from one Slack message.
Yes. So when you constantly switch tasks, you are operating in a state of permanent attention residue.
You're just dragging this cognitive baggage around all day.
You are. You're draining your battery, exponentially increasing your error rate, and completely preventing yourself from doing deep, meaningful work.
So the people who look like amazing multitaskers, the ones society praises, they're just really efficient at operating at a highly shallow level.
They're rapidly depleting their cognitive energy, yes. They are good at administration, but they are rarely the ones doing paradigm-shifting problem solving.
So where does our forgetful, messy desk listener fit into this?
The forgetful individuals often excel at the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Because they can't do the shallow switching?
Because their brain actively resists that rapid, shallow switching, yes. They have an incredible capacity for plunging deeply into a single subject.
Oh, this is the flow state.
Exactly.
That beautiful experience where you start working on a project or reading about a topic you're genuinely fascinated by, and the background noise of the world literally disappears.
the hyperfocus.
You lose all track of time. You look up and like 4 hours have passed.
Flow state is characterized by profound neurochemical changes. Your brain releases a potent mix of dopamine, noradrenaline, and endorphins.
It's like a chemical cocktail for deep work.
For the divergent, easily overloaded brain, this is where they truly shine. But as always, there is a distinct trade-off.
Right, because if you are in a state of profound neurochemical immersion, you aren't paying attention to where you put your coffee cup.
Or the fact that it's raining outside,
And
or that you have a meeting in 5 minutes.
precisely. Because your prefrontal cortex is pouring a massive concentrated amount of energy into one specific target, any details that exist outside of that highly focused target are aggressively pushed out of consciousness.
The brain literally decides we are dedicating 99% of our resources to solving this engineering problem. Therefore, we do not have the 1% required to remember to grab the umbrella on the way out the door.
It's like comparing a laser beam to a floodlight.
Oh, I love that analogy. Break that down.
Well, a floodlight, which is your typical neurotypical multitasker, it illuminates the whole room, right?
Broad and wide.
Yeah, you can see where the keys are, where the shoes are, where the door is. The light covers everything, but it's shallow.
It doesn't penetrate beneath the surface?
Exactly. But the divergent brain is a laser beam.
Highly concentrated.
It focuses all that energy into one tiny, incredibly intense point. It burns incredibly hot and goes incredibly deep into one specific area.
But it leaves the rest of the physical room in total pitch-black darkness.
Exactly. So, of course, you trip over the shoes and forget the keys. You are operating a laser in the dark.
That perfectly captures the neurobiology. Generalists and multitaskers, the floodlights, they're necessary for day-to-day administrative operations.
We need them to keep the lights on.
Yes, but mastering a highly specialized skill, offering profound empathy in a one-on-one conversation, or solving a deeply complex creative problem.
Those things fundamentally require the deep immersion of the laser.
They absolutely do.
But, okay, let's talk about survival. How do you actually survive as a laser in a floodlight world?
It's a real challenge because the modern office demands that we act like floodlights.
Right. We are expected to monitor Slack, answer emails instantly, and remember where the stapler goes. If I go to my boss and say, "Sorry, I missed your urgent email, I'm a laser," that's probably not going to go over well.
No, it won't.
Yeah.
So it requires a strategic shift in how you communicate your value and how you structure your environment.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
First, you have to recognize your own value. Your value is not in your ability to juggle 50 shallow administrative tasks.
It's not about inbox zero.
No. Your true value is in your ability to go deeper than anyone else on the one task that actually moves the needle.
So you have to actively architect your work life to protect your laser focus.
Yes, blocking out uninterrupted hours, turning off notifications, negotiating with your team about response times.
Rather than constantly apologizing for being a defective floodlight, you own the fact that you're a world-class laser.
Exactly. Stop trying to be a mediocre floodlight.
That is so powerful. Okay, that brings us to the third critical strength of this neuroprofile.
And this one explained a very specific, often incredibly frustrating behavior.
Right. So we know this brain thinks divergently. We know it focuses deeply as a laser.
But why does this specific brain type leave a literal trail of half-finished tasks, open drawers, and abandoned projects in its wake?
The classic ADHD trail of destruction. The psychological framing points directly to their intense bias toward novelty-seeking and immediate action.
This is a hallmark of the ADHD-adjacent neuroprofile. The sequencing of action is completely different.
How so? Walk me through the sequence.
Well, for many neurotypical people, a thought occurs, they analyze the risk and reward, they plan the steps, and then they execute the action.
Very linear, very step-by-step.
But for the divergent brain, the body often moves before the conscious mind has had a chance to deliberate.
The body moves first.
Yes, they react powerfully and instantaneously to both internal ideas and external stimuli.
So the psychological term from the source is novelty-seeking, right?
Yes.
Oh.
It's an intense magnetic pull toward new, unknown, or highly stimulating things.
So if a new piece of information enters their field of vision, they are drawn to it immediately, like a moth to a flame.
Exactly. And we have to look at the dopaminergic pathways here.
Let's talk about dopamine.
The brain runs on dopamine. It's the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation.
Right. It's what makes us want to do things.
Well, in divergent brains, especially those with ADHD traits, the baseline level of dopamine is often lower, or the receptors are just less efficient.
So they're starving for dopamine.
Precisely. The brain is constantly scanning the environment for a dopamine hit.
And a novel stimulus, like a new idea, a new email, a new physical object you just noticed that promises a dopamine release.
So they pivot instantly to chase it. They can't help it.
But it's not just chasing a high, is it? There's a deeply practical, internal logic to this impulsivity, too.
There really is. The underlying instinct is, if I don't do this newly remembered thing right this exact second, I will absolutely forget it forever.
Yes. Their subconscious intimately knows that their working memory is incredibly fragile.
It knows the RAM is full and will dump the file if they don't act now.
I think every person listening who struggles with this knows that exact feeling.
The laundry example is the best way to visualize this.
Let's do the laundry example. So you are holding a giant pile of laundry, walking down the hallway to the bedroom.
Okay, on a mission.
You pass the kitchen, and you see a bill sitting on the counter out of the corner of your eye.
And your brain instantly recognizes the danger.
Right. Your brain knows that if you walk past that bill and go to the bedroom, the bill will fall out of your working memory and you will miss the payment.
The file will be deleted.
Exactly. So what do? You drop the entire pile of laundry in the middle of the hallway, you sit down, and you pay the bill immediately.
Which, to an outside observer, like a partner or a roommate, you look completely chaotic.
You look insane. You just left a pile of clothes on the floor for no apparent reason.
But internally, you are acting on a vital, highly logical survival instinct to prevent a disaster.
You are protecting yourself from a systemic failure.
Exactly. And this constant, immediate reaction to stimuli, it ties directly into the concept of mind wandering.
Mind wandering gets such a bad rap as just passive daydreaming or lack of focus.
But the research suggests it's actually high-speed mental time travel.
High-speed mental time travel, that sounds like a sci-fi movie.
It's incredible. While your physical body might be in the entryway, putting on your shoes and going through the motions,
Your consciousness has already time traveled.
you are already at your destination. You are mentally rehearsing the difficult conversation you need to have at work.
Or you are pre-solving a logistical problem for the day.
Your brain is engaging in high-speed, complex cognitive projection.
And because your active awareness simply isn't here in the present physical moment, the keys get left on the counter. But let's ground this in reality for a second. It's great that my brain is time traveling and pre-solving problems, but if I leave the stove on or forget to lock the front door, my house burns down or gets robbed.
The consequences are very real, yes.
So how do we balance this incredible, dynamic, action-taking energy with the very real need for physical safety and basic adult functioning?
That is the ultimate tension for this neurotype. The standard societal advice is to just pay more attention.
Try harder.
Force your brain to stop jumping around. And that is a guaranteed recipe for failure and burnout.
Because you're fighting biology again.
Exactly. The impulsivity of the divergent brain is actually a massive evolutionary advantage. Anthropologists talk about the hunter-gatherer versus farmer hypothesis.
Oh, I've heard of this. Tell me more.
Well, the farmer thrives on routine, predictability, and slow, linear planning, right? You plant the seeds, you wait, you harvest.
Very steady.
But the hunter-gatherer needs to be constantly scanning the horizon. They need to be highly reactive to sudden movement.
They have to be willing to abandon their current path instantly to chase down an unexpected opportunity like prey.
Yes. And in a modern, dynamic, rapidly changing environment like a startup or an emergency room or any creative field, that ability to pivot and take immediate action without getting paralyzed by overthinking, it's a superpower.
So you do not want to destroy the hunter-gatherer instinct just to force yourself into a farmer's routine.
Never. You'd be killing your greatest asset.
So we don't try to cure the impulsivity. We don't try to force the brain to stay grounded in the boring, mundane present.
Exactly. You accept that your brain is going to time travel. You accept your baseline neurobiology.
And once you do that, you stop trying to fix your brain and you start fixing your environment.
You create foolproof external safety nets for those mundane tasks.
Which transitions us perfectly into the actionable solutions. We've spent a lot of time on the theory, but let's get practical.
Let's do it.
The overarching philosophy here is so liberating. Stop hacking your brain and start hacking your environment.
You are not broken. Your environment is just poorly designed for your specific operating system.
The psychology research provides 3 specific, highly effective strategies to stop losing your stuff without crushing your natural creativity.
Okay, the first major intervention is cognitive offloading.
Cognitive offloading. Let's break that down.
We have firmly established that your working memory is a severely limited resource, right?
Yes, the RAM is small.
And it's currently full of brilliant divergent thoughts.
So the absolute worst thing you can do is rely on it for administrative storage.
You must externalize the memory.
It's like plugging an external hard drive into that struggling computer. Don't use the RAM for storage.
Exactly. The most common mistake people make is telling themselves, I'll remember to pick up milk on the way home.
You won't.
You absolutely won't. The moment your brain time travels to a new idea, the milk file is deleted.
So you have to outsource the job of remembering.
And you have to outsource not just what to remember, but when to remember it.
Using digital prosthetics.
Yes, like an app with location-based alerts. An alert that literally pings you the moment you physically drive past the grocery store.
That takes the entire burden off your biological RAM.
Completely. Another crucial form of cognitive offloading is preparing tomorrow's bag tonight and placing it directly in front of the door.
I hear this advice all the time, but why does doing it at night matter so much?
It comes down to decision fatigue and cognitive load.
Okay, explain that.
The morning rush is a high-stress, high-load period. Cortisol is naturally elevated.
Everyone is running around trying to get out the door.
If you force your brain to make decisions about what to pack while simultaneously trying to manage time and get dressed, the system crashes.
The unpressed registration button happens again.
Yes. By doing it the night before, in a lower stress state, you remove those decisions from the morning equation entirely.
You're being kind to your future morning self.
Exactly. Now, I want to talk about specific checklists.
Oh man, I used to feel so much shame about needing checklists.
A lot of people do.
I thought, I'm a grown adult. I shouldn't need a written checklist just to leave my house for a work trip.
But the research completely flips that perspective.
The shame around checklists is completely misplaced, isn't it?
Relying on a checklist is not a sign of a weak mind. It is a sign of high-level systems thinking.
Okay, give me an example.
Consider the highest-stakes professions on Earth. Airline pilots, who are entrusted with hundreds of lives.
And elite surgeons who perform incredibly complex procedures.
They rely religiously on checklists.
They literally will not operate without going down the list.
Right. They do not trust their biological working memory with critical details because they understand that human memory is fallible, especially under pressure.
A checklist is a mechanism of safety and efficiency, not a badge of incompetence.
Exactly. By using a workday or travel checklist, you ensure you don't have to burn precious, limited mental energy starting from zero every single time.
You automate the mundane so you can save your energy for your creative, divergent thinking.
Precisely. You're protecting your laser.
I am officially renaming my morning to-do list my pre-flight protocol.
It sounds way more badass, and it absolutely respects the science.
Okay, the second strategy addresses that specific problem of the unpressed registration button when we do things on autopilot and have zero memory of them.
The stove, the door locks, the curling iron.
Right. The method from the source is called the sensory trigger method, or pointing and calling.
This is deeply rooted in neuroscience.
Let's get into it. Remember, unconscious actions, the things you do while your mind is time traveling, do not reach the hippocampus to be encoded.
You will have absolutely no recollection of locking the door or turning off the stove.
So what does the sensory trigger method actually do?
It's a neurological hack to forcefully yank your consciousness back to the present moment for exactly 2 seconds, forcing the brain to encode the memory.
And the way you do that is by aggressively, physically engaging multiple senses at once.
Yes. Instead of just turning the key in the lock while thinking about your commute.
You turn the key, you physically point your index finger at the lock.
And you say out loud, using your actual voice, door locked.
Okay, I have to admit, it feels ridiculous the first time you do it.
You might feel a bit silly, yes.
But the neurological impact is undeniable.
Absolutely. When you simply look at a lock, only your visual cortex is engaged. It's a weak signal, easily overwritten by whatever you're daydreaming about.
But when you point your finger, you engage the motor cortex.
And when you speak out loud, you engage the motor cortex for speech and the auditory cortex as you hear your own voice.
You are firing multiple distinct neural pathways simultaneously.
Yes. You're creating a fireworks show in your brain for that one specific action.
And what does that do to the memory itself?
It creates a highly robust engram, a physical trace of the memory in the brain. It literally thickens the myelin sheath around that specific neural pathway.
So you're creating multiple entry points for that memory to take hold.
An action that is seen, spoken, and felt physically is cemented into the brain in a way that a passive thought simply cannot be.
This isn't just a self-help gimmick either.
No, not at all.
This is a formalized, highly researched safety protocol known as Shisakanko, originally developed by Japanese railway workers.
Yes. If you ride the bullet train in Tokyo, you will see the conductors constantly pointing at speedometers and track signals, calling out their status loudly.
They do this because occupational psychology studies have proven it drastically reduces human error.
By up to 85% in some studies.
85%, that is massive. It forces an unconscious background habit into a highly conscious multisensory event.
If it is scientifically proven to keep millions of commuters safe on a high-speed train, it is definitely good enough to help me remember that I turned off the stove.
Exactly. Even if I just do it when I'm alone in the house, pointing at my bag and yelling, "Wallet and bag," it works.
Because when that wave of panic hits you 10 minutes later on the highway,
I won't be searching for a vague, fuzzy visual memory.
you will remember the physical sensation of pointing your arm and the sound of your own voice echoing in the hallway.
You are giving your brain the hard data it needs to shut down the anxiety loop. It's incredibly effective.
Which brings us to the final strategy: visual fixed positions, or what is more broadly called environmental design.
This one is huge.
And I think this is the intervention that speaks most directly to the shame around the inability to tidy up, especially for the ADHD listener.
It's going to challenge a lot of preconceived notions.
The core rule here is profound. Do not prioritize a beautiful, magazine-ready aesthetic over your brain's actual functional needs.
This is where we have to confront the absolute tyranny of modern minimalist design.
Minimalism, clean lines, empty surfaces, everything hidden away in sleek, opaque containers.
It is highly aesthetically pleasing. It looks great on Instagram.
But if you have a divergent brain, a brain that relies heavily on visual cues, where things that are out of sight literally cease to exist in your working memory.
Minimalism is a recipe for absolute disaster.
The out-of-sight, out-of-mind phenomenon is completely literal for this brain type, isn't it?
It is entirely literal. It's an issue of object permanence. So if I put a bill inside a filing cabinet just to make my desk look clean, that bill is dead to me.
It no longer exists in your universe until the angry phone call comes from the collections agency.
That is so true. It hurts. So what do we do instead?
Environmental design is about creating what cognitive psychologists call affordances.
Affordances? What's that?
They are cues in your physical environment that prompt specific behaviors without requiring conscious thought or working memory.
You are engineering the space so that the environment does the remembering for you.
Exactly. So instead of a sleek, hidden key cabinet.
You use a bright, highly visible tray right out in the open.
Yes. If your keys are in a bright red tray immediately next to the door handle, you don't have to use any precious RAM to remember where they are.
The environment forcefully reminds you of their existence as you reach for the door.
It shouts at you, visually.
I really want to push on this because it challenges a very deep societal conditioning.
It really does. We are judged on how our homes look.
Right. So are we saying definitively that the listener should abandon the attempt to have those trendy, aesthetically pleasing minimalist storage systems if they have this brain type?
Yes.
Even if every interior design show and organizational guru tells them that a neat, hidden away home is the sign of a successful, mature adult.
Absolutely. Unequivocally, yes.
Yeah.
You must redefine what a successful environment looks like for you.
That's a huge paradigm shift.
An environment is only successful if it actively supports the cognitive functioning of the person living in it.
Right.
If a slightly ugly, incredibly bright neon-colored hook mounted right at eye level next to the door saves you 20 minutes of sheer heart-pounding panic, cortisol spikes, and self-hatred every single morning.
Then that neon hook is the superior, most brilliant design choice for your specific brain.
Period. Aesthetic perfection is the enemy of functional reality for the divergent brain.
We have to embrace functional clutter.
Functional clutter is a great way to phrase it. If it needs to be visible to exist in your mind, leave it visible.
Stop trying to organize your house for a fictional neurotypical guest who might judge you.
And start organizing it for the divergent genius who actually lives there.
What an incredible reframing. That is just so validating.
It's all about working with what you have, not what society tells you to have.
Let's bring this all together because we have covered massive ground today in this deep dive.
We really have, from the biology to the psychology to the practical hacks.
We started by looking at the very real, visceral, emotional toll of everyday forgetfulness. The shame of the lost keys, the guilt of a messy desk.
That heavy, sinking feeling that you are somehow broken, sloppy, or incapable of basic adulthood.
But by diving deep into the neurological realities, we have completely shattered that narrative today.
We've shown that forgetfulness, the inability to maintain rigid order, the trail of half-finished tasks, these are not signs of a moral failing.
They are the direct mechanical side effects of a high-performance engine that is constantly processing massive amounts of information.
You drop mundane details because your working memory is overflowing with complex, divergent ideas.
You struggle with shallow multitasking because your brain is biologically wired to enter incredibly deep, powerful flow states. You are a laser, not a floodlight.
And you leave tasks half-finished, not because you lack discipline, but because you possess a brilliant hunter-gatherer bias toward novelty and immediate action.
You don't follow the rules because your brain is built to see lateral solutions and possibilities that linear thinkers are completely blind to.
So the overarching mandate here for the listener is to drop the guilt.
Drop the guilt. You do not need to try harder to remember. Willpower cannot overcome biology.
You do not need to force yourself to fit into an industrial, neurotypical mold of pristine, minimalist organization.
You simply need to externalize your memory onto digital prosthetics and checklists.
You need to use your voice and your physical body to anchor crucial actions in reality through pointing and calling.
And you need to design a physical environment that acts as your personal external nervous system. Embrace the functional clutter.
Your brain is not broken, it just requires a completely different operating system to run smoothly.
And once you install that new operating system, you get to stop fighting a war against your own biology, and you can start actually leveraging those incredible superpowers.
It's a game changer.
It really makes you wonder, though. I want to leave you, the listener, with this thought.
A final provocation.
Yeah. If we didn't live in a post-industrial society utterly obsessed with 9-to-5 schedules, rigid, sterile environments, and the unnatural demand for shallow multitasking...
Would this forgetful brain type even be considered a problem?
Right. Or would we just look at the hyperfocus, the impulsivity to chase a new idea, and the ability to see multiple uses for a single object and call these people what they actually are?
Our most brilliant innovators, artists, and problem solvers.
Think about that the next time you are standing at the front door. Are you broken for losing your keys?
Or are you just a laser beam trying to operate in a world built for floodlights?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.